You know, when we think about history, our minds usually jump to these huge, loud, dramatic events, right? But what if I told you that the most world-changing moments, they don't start with a cannon blast, but with a whisper?
So yeah, let's really dig into that question. When you picture a revolution or, I don't know, the birth of a nation, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it some huge, flashy event? Or is it something a lot quieter?
All right, so let's break this down. On one hand, you've got the bang version of history, right? Grand declarations, epic battles, all driven by these larger-than-life leaders. But what if the real story, the one that actually matters, is found in the whispers? We're talking about quiet acts of defiance, these small moments of compassion, and the choices made by totally ordinary people. And we're going to explore this whole idea using one of the most foundational stories out there, the story of the Exodus.
So, let's set the scene here. This is not a time for heroes. It's a time of just crushing oppression. The whole story kicks off in a moment of absolute crisis. You've got the Pharaoh issuing a horrifying decree to kill all newborn Hebrew boys. I mean, can you imagine? An entire generation is supposed to be wiped out? Hope, it feels completely gone.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Right at the moment you'd expect, a bolt of lightning from the heavens, some kind of divine intervention. There's nothing. Just silence. In fact, one scholar has this really surprising take on this part of the story, describing it as a time when God is not present. And in that vacuum, with no supernatural hero swooping in, the focus shifts completely. It lands squarely on simple human action.
Which brings us to the most unlikely heroes you could ever imagine. Let's talk about the 6 women who completely shaped the course of history.
That's right, just 6. The entire future of a nation, the whole direction of history, it all came down to the actions of just 6 people.
So who were they? Well, here they are. 2 midwives, Moses' mother and his sister, Pharaoh's own daughter, and later, Moses' wife. Now you got to remember, in this ancient world, women had basically zero formal power. Their influence was supposed to be confined to the home, and yet, these are the people who become the key players. They're the ones who set this entire epic story in motion.
And look at how it happened. It wasn't one big, dramatic, heroic moment. No, it was a chain reaction of small, quiet, courageous choices. It starts with a mother who just refuses to follow the order. Then you have a sister watching from a distance, just in case. Then a princess who feels a moment of compassion for a crying baby. And finally, that same quick-thinking sister jumps in with a clever suggestion. It's like dominoes. Each small act of courage makes the next one possible.
And this is the key takeaway, really. None of them had some grand political strategy. There was no master plan to save their people. They were just responding to the situation right in front of them with basic human decency. They acted out of compassion, trying to save just one single life. And by doing that, they ended up changing the world. It's incredible.
Okay, so what does this incredible ancient story about quiet courage have to do with us today? How does it connect to our own role in history? Well, that's what we're going to jump into next. We're going to explore this idea that, in a way, everyone is a historian.
Because this story really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Do we just sit on the sidelines and watch history happen? Or are we actually the ones writing it, every single day, with every choice we make?
For a long time, the traditional view was what's called the great man theory. The idea that history is all about a few powerful kings, generals, and presidents. But there's another way to look at it, a more modern view that says, no, that's not it at all. History is actually the sum total of everyone's actions. It's this massive collection of billions of individual stories, and every single one of us is a participant.
And that right there is why this is so important. It's this powerful reminder to never ever think that your actions don't matter. Just like those women in the Exodus story, our small acts of kindness, of courage, of just doing the right thing, they all add up. They contribute to a much bigger current of change. We are all part of the story.
But here's the thing. Even after this incredible, miraculous start, the journey was nowhere near over. In fact, it was just beginning. And our next section is all about the one ingredient that true, lasting change absolutely requires: a whole lot of patience.
I mean, just look at the timeline of Moses' life. It's kind of staggering. He spends his first 40 years living as a prince in Egypt. Then, at 40, he has this moment where he tries to be the hero, and it backfires, big time. He fails spectacularly and has to literally run for his life. And what happens next isn't some quick comeback. It's 40 more years, 40 years of complete silence, living as a shepherd out in the middle of nowhere. That's 80 years of his life that go by before his real mission even kicks off. And if you want to understand his mindset during this long, long exile, just look at the name he gave his son, Gershom. It means, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. Can you imagine? Every single time he said his own son's name, it was a reminder of how lost he was, how disconnected he felt from his people and his destiny. He was completely adrift.
You know, in our world today, we want everything instantly. So an 80-year process seems, well, it seems insane. But the story doesn't frame this as a waste of time or some frustrating delay. It's presented as absolutely essential. This was the time for forging character, for learning patience, for gaining real maturity. It's a powerful lesson, right? Some things just can't be rushed. It seems even a grand divine plan has to respect the slow, messy, natural process of human growth.
All right, that brings us to our final section. Let's pull all these threads together and, in the end, turn the question back over to you.
So here's one perspective. The 20th century intellectual Hu Xi once said that history is a little girl to be dressed up as you please. It's this idea that history is totally malleable, right? It's clay in our hands, a story that we get to create and shape. But then, you have this completely different take from the writer Eileen Chang. She said, history is a beautiful, weather-beaten hand gesture. Think about that. It's not clay. It's something organic, something scarred by time and experience. It suggests history has this deep, inherent character that you can't just easily change. It has a life of its own. So, which one is it? Is history a story that we write? Or is it a powerful current that just carries us along? You know, maybe, as this whole story we've been talking about suggests, it's actually both. And in the end, the most important question isn't, what is history? The real question is, what part are you going to play in it?